My name is Margaret Chen, and I'm 62 years old now. The story I'm about to share with you happened 3 weeks ago, but it feels like a lifetime has passed since that moment in my mother's hospital room. I had driven through the rain that Tuesday afternoon, my hands gripping the steering wheel a little too tight. The windshield wipers beat a steady rhythm as I made my way to St. Mary's Hospital for what I thought would be just another visit with Mom. She had been battling pneumonia for 2 weeks, and while the doctors said she was improving, something in her voice on the phone that morning had sounded different. Urgent. Almost. When I walked into her room, I found her sitting upright in bed, looking more alert than she had in days. Her silver hair was neatly combed, and she wore the blue cardigan I had brought her from home. On the bedside table sat a manila folder I hadn't seen before. "Margaret," she said, her voice surprisingly strong, "close the door and sit down. We need to talk." I felt my stomach tighten. At 62, I thought I was past the age of feeling like a child being called into the principal's office, but something about my mother's tone brought that sensation rushing back. I closed the door quietly and pulled the vinyl chair closer to her bed. Mom reached for the manila folder with hands that trembled slightly. Inside was her will. I recognized the law firm's letterhead immediately. Jacobson and Associates had handled our family's legal matters for 30 years. "Mom, you don't need to," I started, but she held up her hand. "Hush now and listen," she said, and there was steel in her voice I hadn't heard in months. "I've been doing a lot of thinking these past few weeks. When you're lying in a hospital bed with nothing but time, you think about your life, about your choices, about your children." She placed her hand firmly on top of the will and looked me straight in the eye. What she said next felt like a physical blow. "You won't get a single cent." The words hung in the air between us like smoke. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The fluorescent lights above seemed too bright suddenly, and the steady beep of the heart monitor seemed to grow louder. "I'm small," she continued, her gaze never wavering. "I'll right my wrongs before I go. Don't expect a single cent from me either." I slowly set my purse down on the floor. 2 weeks later, I stood in the same hospital room, but everything had changed. Mom had passed away the night before, peacefully in her sleep. My younger brother Thomas was there, red-eyed and quiet. My sister Patricia arrived an hour later, her mascara already smudged from crying. We sat together in that room for a long time, not saying much, just being present with our grief and with each other. Eventually, a nurse came in with Mom's personal belongings, including that manila folder. Thomas looked at me. "Did she talk to you about this?" I nodded slowly, my throat tight. "She did." Patricia wiped her eyes. "She talked to all of us, didn't she? Separately?" Thomas nodded. 2 days before you came, Margaret, she told me the same thing. That I wouldn't see a penny." "Me too," Patricia whispered. "Last week." We looked at each other. 3 middle-aged siblings sitting in a hospital room, finally understanding that we had each been given the same message. But why? The reading of the will happened on a gray Thursday morning. Mr. Jacobson's office smelled of old books and coffee. The 3 of us sat in leather chairs that creaked when we moved, facing his massive oak desk. He was a man in his 70s with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Your mother was very specific about how she wanted this handled," he began, opening the file. "She came to see me 6 months ago to revise everything. 6 months ago. That was before the pneumonia, before the hospital. She had planned this." Mr. Jacobson cleared his throat and began reading. "I, Evelyn Marie Chen, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament." The legal language washed over us until he reached the part about the distribution of assets. That's when everything became crystal clear. "To my daughter Margaret, who gave up her dreams of becoming a veterinarian to help me run the family restaurant when your father died. I leave nothing from my estate, because I already gave you something far more valuable. I gave you responsibility when you needed to learn strength. I gave you sacrifice when you needed to learn compassion. And I gave you the gift of knowing you were needed, which taught you that your life has meaning beyond yourself." I felt tears streaming down my face. "To my son Thomas, who worked 2 jobs to pay for his daughter's medical treatments while I had money in the bank that I refused to lend you, I leave nothing from my estate. Because that struggle taught you what kind of father you wanted to be. It taught you that love isn't measured in dollars. And it taught you that you were stronger than you ever imagined." Thomas's shoulders shook as he wept. "To my daughter Patricia, who begged me to help with the down payment on your house and watched me say no while you and your husband lived in that tiny apartment for 3 more years, I leave nothing from my estate. Because those years in that small space with your growing family taught you patience. They taught you gratitude for what you eventually earned. And they taught you that the best things in life are worth waiting for. Patricia covered her face with her hands. Mr. Jacobson paused, giving us a moment. Then he continued, "Instead, I have donated my entire estate, which amounts to approximately $375,000, to the organizations and causes that my children have supported with their time, their energy, and their own limited resources over the years." He handed each of us a separate sheet of paper, $50,000 to the Children's Hospital where Thomas's daughter received treatment, in the name of the Chen family, $75,000 to the Animal Rescue Foundation where Margaret has volunteered every Saturday for the past 8 years, $60,000 to the literacy program that Patricia has taught with for over a decade. The remaining funds have been divided among various scholarships and community programs you've all been involved with. I looked down at the paper in my trembling hands. Listed there were a dozen organizations I cared about, each receiving donations in amounts that would genuinely change lives. Mr. Jacobson wasn't finished. "Your mother wrote a personal letter to each of you. She asked me to read them after the will, but in private, if you'll give me a few moments with each of you individually." Thomas and Patricia stepped out, and Mr. Jacobson handed me an envelope with my name written in Mom's careful handwriting. Inside was a single page. "My dearest Margaret," it began, and I could hear her voice in every word. "If you're reading this, I'm gone, and you probably spent the last few weeks of my life angry with me. Good. You needed that fire. You've spent too many years being soft and accommodating, putting everyone else first until there was nothing left of you. When your father died 32 years ago, and you quit veterinary school to help with the restaurant, I should have stopped you. But I was drowning in grief and responsibility, and I let you sacrifice your dreams. That was my first failure as your mother. My second failure was never telling you that you could still go back, that it wasn't too late to chase what you loved. So I'm telling you now, from beyond wherever I am. You're 62 years old, Margaret. Your children are grown. The restaurant was sold 5 years ago. You have time. You have life left to live. And you have always, always loved animals more than anything else in this world. The Animal Rescue Foundation is getting a donation in our family name, but that's not the important part. The important part is this. In my safety deposit box at First National Bank, you'll find another envelope. Inside is a check for $50,000 made out to you personally. Not from my estate. From an account I kept separate. Money I earned from investing wisely over the years. I'm not leaving you nothing, my dear girl. I'm leaving you everything that matters. I'm leaving you permission. Permission to live for yourself. Permission to go back to school if you want. Permission to start that animal sanctuary you used to dream about. Permission to finally put yourself first. You won't get a single cent from my estate because I'm giving you something worth so much more than money. I'm giving you freedom from obligation. I'm giving you the rest of your life as a gift, unwrapped and full of possibility. Don't you dare waste it being angry at a dead old woman. Don't you dare spend another year living small. You are 62, which means if you're lucky, you might have 20 or 30 good years ahead of you. That's enough time for a whole second life. Be brave, my darling. Be selfish in the best way. And when you're 90 years old and you look back, I want you to see a life fully lived, not a life spent in service to everyone but yourself. I love you more than words can express. Thank you for being the daughter who stayed, who helped, who cared. Now go be the woman who flies. Your loving mother, Evelyn. I sat in that office and cried for 20 minutes straight. Mr. Jacobson quietly left me alone, and when I finally composed myself enough to emerge, I found Thomas and Patricia in the waiting room, both looking as emotionally wrung out as I felt. She gave us all permission, Thomas said quietly. Permission to forgive ourselves. Patricia nodded. Mine said I was enough, that I had always been enough, even when I felt like I was failing. That those hard years made me who I am, and who I am is exactly who I was meant to be. We stood there together, 3 grown children who had just received our mother's final lesson. She had taught us one last time, in the most unexpected way. That evening, I drove to the bank and retrieved the envelope from Mom's safety deposit box. The check was there, exactly as she had said. But there was also something else. A small photograph I hadn't seen in decades. It was me at 19, standing in front of the veterinary school building on my first day of classes. I was smiling so big, my face looked like it might split in two. I had completely forgotten that Mom took that picture. On the back, in her handwriting, were just 3 words. Not too late. I'm standing here now, 3 months after Mom's funeral, in the admissions office of the community college 40 minutes from my house. They have a veterinary technician program for older students. It's not the same as becoming a full veterinarian, but at 62, it's practical, achievable, and still lets me work with animals every single day. The woman behind the desk is explaining the application process, but I'm only half listening. I'm thinking about Mom lying in that hospital bed, gathering the courage to tell each of her children a hard truth wrapped in love. I'm thinking about how she understood that sometimes the greatest gift a parent can give isn't money or comfort, but challenge and permission. I'm thinking about the $50,000 that will help me not just pay for school, but start planning for that animal sanctuary. Just a small one, maybe on a few acres outside of town, a place where older dogs and cats, the ones nobody else wants, can live out their days being loved. I'm thinking about how Mom always said that life isn't over until it's over, and we never really understood what she meant until she was gone. The admissions counselor is smiling at me now, waiting for an answer to a question I didn't quite hear. I'm sorry, I say, smiling back. Could you repeat that? I ask what made you decide to come back to school at this stage of your life. I think about that for a moment, about how to explain it. Then I realize the answer is simple. My mother, I say. She taught me that it's never too late to become who you were meant to be. And she taught me that the best inheritance isn't what you leave behind, but who you help people become. The counselor's smile grows warmer. She sounds like she was a wise woman. She was, I agree, pulling out the application form. She really was. As I fill out the paperwork, I think about Thomas, who has started coaching Little League Baseball, something he always wanted to do, but never had time for. I think about Patricia, who is writing a children's book about learning to read, inspired by all her years of teaching. We're all living our second chances, the 3 of us. We're all taking the lessons Mom taught us and building something new with them. When I walk out of that office an hour later with my acceptance letter in hand, I look up at the sky. It's late afternoon, and the sun is breaking through the clouds in those dramatic rays that make you believe in something bigger than yourself. Thank you, Mom, I whisper to the wind. I get it now, I finally get it. You won't get a single cent, she had said. And she was right. I didn't get money. I got something infinitely more valuable. I got myself back. I got permission to dream again. I got the understanding that love sometimes looks like tough choices and hard words and forcing the people you care about to find their own strength. I got a second life at 62, and I'm not going to waste a single moment of it. That night, I call Thomas and Patricia, and we talk for 2 hours. We laugh about Mom's dramatic flair, delivering her message like she was in a movie. We cry about how much we miss her, and we marvel at how she managed to teach us one final lesson even after she was gone. She was always 3 steps ahead of us, Thomas says, his voice full of affection. And she knew exactly what each of us needed to hear, Patricia adds. She loved us enough to let us struggle, I say quietly. And she loved us enough to give us permission to stop struggling and start living. We make a promise to each other that night. Once a month, the 3 of us will meet for dinner, and we'll share what we're doing with our second chances. We'll hold each other accountable to Mom's final wish that we live fully, bravely, and without regret. 6 months later, I'm halfway through my first semester, and I've never been happier. The classes are hard, and I'm definitely the oldest student by at least 20 years. But I don't care. When I get to work with the animals during practical training, I feel something light up inside me that I thought had died decades ago. I've also found 3 acres of land just outside of town. It needs work, a lot of work, but it's perfect. There's an old barn that can be converted, and plenty of space for dogs to run and cats to explore safely. I've named it Haven's Rest in honor of Mom, because that's what she gave us in the end. A place to rest from our obligations and begin again. Thomas comes out one Saturday to help me start clearing the land. Patricia arrives with her husband and a truckload of supplies. We work together in the sunshine, 3 siblings in our 60s, building something new from the foundation our mother laid. You know what the crazy thing is? Thomas says during a water break. I'm not even mad anymore that she didn't help me when Sarah was sick. If she had, I might have learned to always look for someone to rescue me. Instead, I learned I could rescue myself. Patricia nods. And I'm grateful for those years in the apartment now. Some of my best memories are from that time. We were cramped and broke, but we were together and we were happy. If we'd gotten the house right away, we might have missed that. I look at my brother and sister, both of them graying now, both of them carrying the lines and marks of lives fully lived. She knew, I say softly. Somehow she knew exactly what each of us needed, as the sun sets over Haven's Rest, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I think about Mom's hand on that will. I think about her eyes meeting mine with such fierce determination. I think about how much courage it must have taken to deny us what we thought we wanted in order to give us what we truly needed. And I think about how love isn't always gentle. Sometimes it's tough and demanding, and pushes you toward your own strength even when you're scared. Sometimes it says no when you want yes, and forces you to find your own way forward. That's the real inheritance Mom left us. Not money, not property, not possessions. She left us ourselves, fully realized and finally free to become who we were always meant to be. I'm 62 years old, and I'm just getting started. And somewhere I like to think Mom is watching and smiling, proud that her final lesson took root in the hearts of her children. You won't get a single cent, she said, and she gave us the whole world instead. Thank you, Mom, for everything, but especially for teaching us that it's never too late to start over, and that the best things in life aren't things at all. They're second chances, self-discovery, and the courage to finally live the life we were meant to live all along. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your comments mean the world to us, and we'd love to hear about the lessons your own parents or loved ones have taught you. Have you ever received a gift that didn't look like one at first? Share your story in the comments below. Together, we can remind each other that it's never too late to start living the life we dream of.